Over the past 50 years, change management has become a topic of increasing interest among academics and managers. Thousands of hours have been spent researching how change can best be managed, and organizations have spent millions of dollars employing consultants to help them manage that change. My name is Ken Brown from the Tippie College of Business, University of Iowa, and I'm speaking on behalf of my colleagues, Stephen Cummings and Todd Bridgman, both from Victoria University of Wellington. You are listening to a vodcast introduction to our article, Unfreezing Change as 3 Steps. Our article argues that a foundation upon which much of change management activity is based, Kurt Lewin's classic 3-step change framework, is not at all what we believe it to be. The most popular change management framework of the past 20 years is Kotter's 8 Steps of Change. It starts with creating a sense of urgency and ends with consolidating and institutionalizing the changes made. But where did Kotter's framework come from? He claims it's based on many years of experience and multiple successful change interventions. But it's also reassuring that Kotter's 8 steps and the Arctic metaphors on the covers of his popular books follow the format and imagery of what is regarded as change management's foundational, fundamental, and classic change framework, Kurt Lewin's Change as 3 Steps: Unfreezing, Change, and Refreezing. In fact, most of the best-known change management frameworks, the 5-stage model of Roland Lippitt and his colleagues, the 6-step approach promoted by Kolb and Froham, and the popular 1980s framework by Tichy and Devana, to name a few, all appear to rest on the foundation laid by Lewin nearly 70 years ago. And where does this solid foundation come from? What's even more reassuring is the nature of the scientist who developed what we have built the field of change management upon. Kurt Lewin, or Levine, as it should be pronounced in the original German, was a great pioneering scientist, regarded by many as the founder of social psychology. He fled from Germany to continue his research in the United States in the 1930s, and is best known for his field theory, which holds that human behavior is a function of psychological environments. However, the man called the Great Experimenter by his biographer made many other scientific discoveries with regard to group dynamics as well. Tragically and unexpectedly, he died young of a heart attack in 1947. When citing Lewin's work to back up claims about his foundational theory, scholars almost always cite this book, Field Theory in Social Science, published in 1951. 2 things are interesting about this. First, remember, Lewin died 4 years earlier in 1947. And second, people almost never provide a page reference to indicate where Lewin promotes change as 3 steps. The reason that the citation that most use to justify the framework was published 4 years after that founder's death is that it is an edited book of Lewin's work. Field Theory is in fact the 2nd volume of this project. The reason that very few people provide a page reference, as would normally be the case in academic writing, may be that Lewin's supposed claims in this regard are devilishly difficult to find in the book. Any mention of unfreeze, change, refreeze is not much easier to find in the actual source included in the 1951 book, that is, a 1947 article in the first ever issue of the journal Human Relations, an article sent to the journal just a few weeks before Lewin died. It's not easy to find, but the fragment that others would transform into a model of change interventions is buried here in the 24th of 25 subsections of a 40-page article, and on page 231 of the 1951 book, in case you were wondering. Lewin writes here that change is 3 steps: unfreezing, moving, freezing. Lewin never used the word change or changing in this context, and he never, ever wrote the word refreezing, is a way that planned social change may be thought of. Unlike the many other points made in the 1947 article and the 1951 collection, no empirical evidence is given for this notion, and Lewin did not illustrate it with a diagram, certainly not a diagram like that which is presented as his classic framework in many textbooks today. This framework is also not related to any one particular experiment, and Lewin does not suggest that it should be used as an intervention tool. In our article, we outline how this fragment was taken up by later authors after Lewin's death, made into the classic framework, and then attributed back to Lewin. So, are we advocating that we should scrap these foundations of change management altogether? Not necessarily, but we should be cautious of giving too much weight to them and treating them as proven. And most importantly, by realizing that Lewin did not advocate unfreeze, change, refreeze as a foundational change intervention model, we can return to what Lewin actually did advocate to learn some valuable lessons about change management. By looking behind, or unfreezing, to use that term, the supposed foundations of change management, we can realize the forgotten insights based on Lewin's research. We describe more of these in our article, but a couple are worth stating briefly here. First, one large study of organizational change that Lewin was involved in incorporated a number of experiments. One showed that perhaps the best thing to do at the start of a change process was to communicate with the people who would be affected before any preconceptions were formed or plans laid out. The second is that the key unit of analysis to better understand change was not individuals or organizations as a whole, but groups. We need to understand how people behave differently in different groups. This is very much in keeping with Lewin's key contributions in regard to promoting the importance of group dynamics as a new field of inquiry, something that we have perhaps not taken as seriously as we might if we didn't teach students that Lewin's key contributions was a rather trite-sounding 1, 2, 3 model. Thanks for listening. We hope you found this podcast interesting. If you want to find out more, click the link in the description below to access the article.